Oh, okay.
Just press and hold it.
I hold it for now. Okay, thank you, Bobby. Good evening, everyone. I want to call the June meeting of the Henry County Planning Commission to order. Welcome everybody here this evening. We're going to fix my microphone here.
Sorry, we did want live on.
Thank you. The first order of business, I'm going to ask for a roll call. So would Sean or Jody please do roll call? Here.
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 Thank you. Next order item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, and this would be the meeting we had back in April, I believe. So everyone should have received a copy ahead of time. So whenever, I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay. Dale made the motion, Keenan second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay. Approved. Okay, we're going to move into our first case of the evening. It's case B2245, a request by the Indiana Municipal Power Agency for a commission-approved use for an approximately 1.2 megawatt solar park on approximately 8.46 acres to benefit the town of Knightstown. The property is owned by Tom and Dana True of Knightstown and is located on parcel number 014-04239-00 in Wayne Township. So at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any representative of IMPA to present your.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioners, my name is Chris Sanders. I'm the Vice President of Generation for IMPA. If we go to... Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
So our request is for a commission-approved use of approximately 1.2 megawatt solar park on approximately 8.5 acres for the benefit of Knightstown. A little bit of background on IMPA. We are a not-for-profit joint action agency formed as a political subdivision of the state of Indiana. We provide wholesale power to 61 municipal electric utilities, 60 of which are in the state of Indiana. Knightstown became a member of IMPA in 2006. We have ownership of 524 megawatts of baseload coal, an additional 419 megawatts of natural gas combustion turbines used for peaking, and we currently have 130 megawatts of power coming from our own solar parks within 35 different member communities. The Knightstown project, we seek to develop a 1.2 megawatt facility that'll be an investment of approximately $2.3 million. This park would be interconnected with Knightstown's own electric utility, and then all of the power generated there would be consumed within Knightstown and not leave their distribution system. On page 5, you can see an overview of the location. You see the area of land there behind Mr. Tom True's storage facilities. The next page is a little bit more detail of what it will look like on page 6. You can see two areas, one in green, one in red. Those are where the solar modules would be, so the panels that would track the sun. And then there are two different equipment areas. Three equipment areas, one on the far left, one just to the right of that, and the one behind the auction building a little bit further to the right in the green. So the proposed commission-approved use is to be located in a zoning district wherein such use may be permitted. The property is currently zoned as agricultural A1. Henry County Development Code allows for a utility project to be developed on a parcel zoned agricultural, provided it receives approval from this commission. In 2015, the commission approved a 10-acre solar park for Hoosier Energy. Then in 2017, this commission approved a 1.5 megawatt solar park for IMPA that we've built in the town of Spiceland. The Henry County Commissioner's attorney has interpreted the current moratorium on commercial solar to not include IMPA as a municipal solar project. The requirements set forth in the zoning district and in this section and such commission-approved use will be met. All federal, state, and local regulations will be followed. Setback and fence height variances will be applied for should we need to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals if the CAU is granted. And then if any instance arises where IMPA would be unable to meet any standard, we would request additional variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The proposed uses are consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of these regulations. It will not substantially or permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring property, and it will serve the public convenience and welfare. The power produced by the park, as I mentioned, will stay entirely within the Nicetown Electric Utility, be consumed by its own customers. And then this park will again help IMPA's mission to provide its member communities, such as those here in the county with Nicetown, Louisville, Strawn, with low-cost, reliable, and environmentally responsible power. The project will contribute to the tax base without needing the public services that would typically be required for a residential or commercial development. And the solar park will be clean and quiet with minimal potential impact to any neighboring properties. The next page is just a statement of the Henry County Comprehensive Plan. One of the points I'd like to make on this on page 11 is that the proposed location is not within a prime agricultural land as designated on the future land use map. You can see there in the area highlighted in red where we would be, and we are outside of the prime agricultural land. And then on to page 12, a little bit about some of IMPA's parks. This would be the second park here in the county. Spiceland's 1/2 megawatt park came online in 2018, and it powers up to 75 homes. On the map there you see all the yellow dots are where IMPA's members reside. Where you see the little blue solar panels, those are where we have existing parks today. The Nicetown project would be approximately 3,750 panels with single-axis tracking. So they would track from the east to the west as the sun moves across the sky. The area for that would be a little under 8.5 acres. It would take 8 to 10 months to construct the facility, and we anticipate it coming online, construction beginning in the middle of 2022, should the request be approved. Page 14 is an aerial view of one of our Crawfordsville solar farms. This one is a little bit larger than what would go in Nicetown. This is 2.3 megawatts. And then another one in Greenfield, there on page 15, 2.84. And then some of the benefits specific to Nicetown. This would be local renewable energy. It helps to provide stable cost resources added to IMPA's power portfolio. The investment by IMPA and the member community provides revenue for local authorities. It's another forward-thinking approach toward energy which further diversifies IMPA's portfolio that we use to serve our members. And then, of course, it offers members with a potential economic developmental advantage over sites that may not have such an installation. When corporations have ESG guidelines or bylaws, oftentimes they seek out renewable energy in the communities where they choose to build new facilities. And then, of course, community education and involvement opportunities through schools or any other municipal agencies. That was all I had, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the Planning Commission have questions?
What's the difference between your red panels and your green panels?
It's really just a way of segregating how we would lay the park out. They would not appear any different once built. That's just one of our construction drawings that's used for the engineering side of the park.
How do you calculate 1.2 megawatts? What's that based on?
So the parks are sized based on what the peak demand is of the member communities. So we never want to push out from the member community. So whenever we looked at what Knightstown's demand is and compared that with the land that was available, the 1.2 megawatt was what fit those criteria.
And if that were running peak, how many homes would that supply on average usage?
So just doing some quick math in my head, the Spiceland being about a half a megawatt was around, I believe, 50 homes. So it's going to be, I might find that slide real quick. Sorry, Spiceland 75, so a little over 150 homes directly powered during peak generation.
So is this using the most current technology for panels that's out there?
Absolutely. Yeah, the panel technology is moving very quickly. You know, the parks that we're building today, the modules are between 400 and 440 watt. By the time this park were to be built, it would likely be in the 480 to 500 watt per module.
Have you got any kind of a recycling program that you're thinking about doing with the panels?
Sure. So right now, all of the parks that we've built are still online. We anticipate a 30 to 50-year life for all of our sites. So right now, the only recycling that we've done have been on where there's been damage from, you know, either extreme weather or during construction, and we do recycle that equipment that is damaged. We do not just discard it.
I'm thinking more of like end of life. So
Yeah. So the plan would be to ensure that the site would be available for use whenever the end of life would be. It would mostly consist of electronic component recycling and then pulling the posts out of the ground. Our posts are typically not set in concrete. They're typically just driven into the dirt.
okay.
Hey, sir, would you help me, show me exactly where this location is at?
Okay. I think the best way to do that would be on page 5. So this is just on the north side of 40, and it wraps behind where Tom True's storage buildings are.
I think it's in the,
Is that
You're-
40? That's 40 down.
The main road that kind of curves through that drawing is 40.
Yeah,
How far
just,
away from the school?
I'm not certain about that.
it's on the other side of town, at least 2 miles.
On the east side.
east side of Knightstown. It's east before you get into
Yes,
Knightstown,
this would be on the-
if you're going west.
It's near Raysville, across 40 from
Yeah.
Raysville.
Yeah, this is directly behind the cell block.
The storage units kind of sit on a hill, and then this ground actually falls back away from storage units.
Yes, sir,
Yes.
that's correct.
Is there any houses close?
There are some along the east side. Maybe on page 6 might be the best view to see that. So you can see there along the east side, we've set the equipment back over 75 feet from the property line of the neighboring home there, and there is existing vegetation already in place.
Have you talked to, have any communication with the neighboring property that it's going to butt up against?
I'm not aware of that.
I'm assuming they're aware of this rezone. Okay. Oh, you're shaking your head. Okay.
Are you planting any kind of natural vegetation or maybe evergreens or something around the perimeter, or?
So our intent is always to disturb existing vegetation as little as possible. And then If there were to be a concern that would come up where screening would be requested, we tend to, work with those landowners on an individual basis. But we do routinely do that.
What kind of fencing around the perimeter?
We typically do a 7-foot chain link fence with a 1-foot barbed wire on top.
And that'd be similar to Spiceland?
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions? Go ahead, Dale.
Outside of any other neighbors in this neighborhood? I'm sorry? We have not done a sort of door-to-door ask. What we typically do is before construction begins, our construction management firm, they go and they knock on doors, introduce themselves, provide contact information so that they're made available during construction to any landowners for any issues that may arise.
Now, as I read this, this is mostly for Knightstown area?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it would be entirely, all the power would be generated and consumed within Knightstown. It would not leave Knightstown system.
It doesn't go on the grid.
No, ma'am.
It's not for resale. It doesn't go on the grid.
No, it does not go on, does not leave and go on transmission. No, ma'am.
This could be a great asset to Knightstown School, right?
Yeah, we routinely have school tours come through, even during our ribbon cuttings on new facilities. We invite, school children from local schools to come out and participate, and then we give tours after the ribbon cutting. And then we're always open to any additional tours or sort of informational sessions that the school may like to have in the neighborhood after the facility is built.
You said there's 3 areas for equipment. What kind of equipment are we talking about on the periphery of the panels?
Yeah, so the equipment that would be in those central areas would be transformers and our inverters. So the inverters take the DC from the modules to AC, and then the transformers increase the voltage from the inverter output to
And
Knightstown.
and the inverters are up to date, most common technology
Yes,
also.
they're very
So-
similar to the modules. It's a very fast evolving process with the solar industry. So it's not uncommon that a year or two after we've built a park that we are not able to procure those identical inverters. So we typically purchase spares when we build an initial site.
Do you know where your inverters are made?
So I believe, so we've not procured these inverters yet. Some of them come from different locations, to be honest. I'm sorry? As far as what the customer's cost would be? So, yeah, so there are some lead time changes since Spiceland was built on equipment procurement, but we still see even with prices today, given commodities, that it's still an economical project for us to undertake.
Is Mr. True, I think Mr. Winning said, those are storage units? Is that what most of those buildings are in front of it?
Yes, the ones there toward the longer buildings, those are storage units.
Has he thought about putting them on top of those storage facilities as well?
I've not spoken with him about that, so I don't know what his plans would be.
Is that something you're thinking about? Because that would add a lot of extra solar.
So on rooftop, where we're not the owner of the property, typically the owners put their own equipment on, and then we would have a power purchase agreement where we would buy that power from them. But we don't typically install our equipment on top of other homeowners' property.
When we inquired about solar on top of the new jail, the correctional facility. The architect said that probably wouldn't recoup the extra costs for the engineering design to carry that weight. So it would have been a wash. It wouldn't have been any economic advantage to that in that particular case, given the square footage involved.
Yeah,
We-
that would have been a different type of racking, probably a ballasted system versus our in-ground.
To make sure I'm clear on this, are you a member of the IURC as far as setting your rates, your
So-
power, your charges?
So our rates that we charge our members are set based on a rate study that we conduct internal to IMPA.
Yeah.
Our rates are not set by the IURC.
Okay.
And then the members have their own rate-making policies that
Okay.
that their customers are subject to.
And since half the microphones here aren't working, I didn't quite hear Larry's question concerning cost with the, if you were to put this in, would you anticipate there would be a price increase for the citizens of Knightstown on their electric rates?
So the way our parks work, it's more of a collective sort of thing where while the power is produced there, it benefits all of the members of IMPA. So I can't speak for Knightstown or what their rate-making policy is, but each of our solar parks that are in all of our member communities that we have today benefit all of our other members
Okay.
within IMPA.
Okay, so you spread your cost over every one of your members, not just the community you're serving?
Correct. It
Okay,
is an
okay.
IMPA portfolio project, yes.
Okay.
It's
Any further
I live
que-
in Strawn, so I have input so it's my understanding Strawn buys their, or gets their power from you at a certain rate, and then they determine how much more they're gonna add on to that,
For what their costs
or
are.
Strawn Municipal Electric for each one of their
Yes,
customers.
ma'am.
Any further questions? We can
Thank you.
think one later, we can ask it again. I'll open it up for this. So at this time, I'll open it up to the general public. Anyone have comments either for or against this proposal? Please come forward, state your name, and
Is Mr. True here tonight? No?
well, it seems the public is silent at this point. Larry, another question?
So we have certain criteria that we set out to develop an economical solar park. It often has to do with, is land available? Is it, within the member's service territory? Is there three-phase lines either adjacent or near it? And so different parks have different sort of evolutions of how they come to be. But that was how, this sort of selection criteria that we have when we look for different sites.
On solar panels, can you expand? Is it possible to expand on solar panels?
Typically, when we build our parks, we build them such that the inverters are the limiting factor. So the modules have a degradation over time. So we typically put in more module capacity than we do inverter capacity. So we sort of build in longevity into the park through having that overbuilt module quantity, but to add additional capacity would take incremental equipment installation and typically additional land procurement. So not to say that it cannot be done, but it's going to be totally dependent upon if the members' capacity warrants it, and then if we have land either available within the site we've already built or any adjacent land that may become available.
This is currently what, agricultural use?
Yes, sir.
So is there going to be a zoning request change from agricultural, or is this just totally a CAU type of a hearing?
Someone besides me will have to answer that question. If we have to actually change the zoning, I do not believe we do we?
So it's a CAU. Okay.
Oh,
Someone did come from Knightstown, I wasn't sure. I'm Sarah Ward, the president of the Knightstown Town Council. We'd very much appreciate your helping us with this. I'm a commissioner now with the IMPA and have been quite impressed with their portfolio, and this is one of the things they're trying to do to get some additional kinds of energy, because we're going to need more and more energy. And Tom True, I was out looking for someone because IMPA is trying to do some of these small parks all over the state, and found out he had just purchased this land. He's very community-minded. He was very interested in doing that, and I think they rather easily came to terms with IMPA for doing it. So we'd really appreciate your support of this.
thank you. Yes.
I'm Paul Herr, and I just have a question about how much of this system would be computerized?
There are some intelligent devices that would be in the park. We have communications from monitoring so that we can watch the health of the equipment remotely. But there are essentially computers in the inverters to manage their output. And then we have our protection scheme. So we have equipment that's there to ensure that we don't either damage equipment inside the park or damage equipment outside the Knightstown system. So that there would be microprocessor type equipment to help do that.
How about cybersecurity? The trend now is to get hacked if you're a utility company. So who's responsible for taking care of that?
So we do that on our own. We have our own procedures for what we allow and what we do not allow for connectivity. The only controllability that anyone has is our NPA staff. Some of the OEMs of the suppliers like inverters, we provide them with the ability to view data for troubleshooting and things like that.
So if someone comes in and shuts down the system and demand a ransom, how do you resolve that problem?
That's a good question. We're working through our own sort of ransomware IT security procedures now, making sure that we are already at some of the events that have happened lately. We've moved a lot of our access to a little limited group of people that has added additional cybersecurity to even gain that access. So we work with a contract IT company that provides all of our sort of guidelines and recommendations for how we address all the cybersecurity, both at our solar sites and at our other assets, such as the combustion turbine facilities that we have in Richmond.
So if you have to pay a ransom, does that cost get passed on to the consumer?
So we've never crossed that bridge, and we would seek feedback from law enforcement officials should that pass.
This property is not in any city or town limits. It's Henry County, under Henry County jurisdiction, right? I mean, it's,
I believe it is non-contiguous with Knightstown city limits right now.
so do you have anything in writing about decommissioning in 30, 40 years? That it's your responsibility and not the county's, or if it's incorporated at some time within Knightstown, it won't be their responsibility to pay for decommissioning, or?
Yeah, so part of the benefit of building all of our parks within our member communities is that all of those members are also commissioners, such as Sarah, on IMPA's board, and they set our policy and they drive the decisions that we make. It would never be our intent to leave a site untenable within one of our, anywhere for that matter, but especially within one of our member communities.
But that's not in Knightstown's city limits, so it would fall on Henry County, which doesn't have someone on IMPA commissioner. Sure like to see something in writing relating to decommissioning, since this doesn't go into whatever the commissioners are working on as far as the solar ordinance. I mean, we have your word, and I doubt if 30 or 40 years from now you're working for IMPA, so I'm just thinking it would be nice to have something in.
I understand. Yes, so, you know, the bulk of the decommissioning would be recycling the electronics, and the market trends on electronics recycling that they're more and more valuable every day. So the other part would be removing the posts, and as I mentioned, that would be not as insurmountable of a task as if they were in concrete, where all of our posts are in the dirt, unless there would be some sort of geological reason to prevent that.
Do you have a decommissioning agreement with Crawfordsville or Greenfield or Spiceland?
We don't have a sort of decommissioning policy. You know, as I said, we treat these facilities as multi-decade projects for us. So we have not come to creating a decommissioning procedure yet.
Okay.
Do you have any solar arrays that are, I don't know, 5, 10 years old that you're anticipating upgrading with a newer, more efficient technology as far as the panels or the inverters? Or
Sure, we've already done that on a couple of our original parks, and we've got a couple projects happening right now. So our 3 first parks were in Frankton, Rensselaer, and Richmond. All 3 of those have already had their inverters replaced. And then we have 3 more of those similar projects happening this year. One in Pendleton, one in Peru, and then one in Crawfordsville. The first round of parks that we built were, I believe, in 2014. And, you know, through some lessons learned, we found some better ways to engineer and make equipment choices. And so those parks are now repowered with modern inverters.
Knightstown has a fairly large storage building, it looks like, for equipment or trucks. Do you anticipate anything like that in Knightstown, or would that use the Spiceland facility for this area?
So the storage at Spiceland is actually for our IMPA Service Corporation entity. We don't anticipate having a storage facility at Knightstown. The extent of our storage would be some spare equipment, modules that would be in crates. We often leave those at the facilities for quick access should there be a need for them. But as far as having a building or any sort of large amount of storage, we do not anticipate that.
Okay, hearing no further comments, I believe we appreciate your time, and at this point we'll proceed. This is a CAU, which is a commission use approval. The buck stops here with this commission. Whatever we decide tonight will be the final decision. It's not something that commissioners also have to sign off on. So I believe, unless I'm wrong, I think there are 3 questions involved, and I've asked Sean to read each question and then to take a roll call.
So in our zoning ordinance, of course I had it pulled up here. Bear with me, I had this on my phone. In our commission-approved use zoning ordinance, it does lay out 3 questions for commission-approved use. The first question is, I'll just read the 3 questions. The first question is, The proposed commission-approved use is to be located in a zoning district wherein such use may be permitted. The second question is, the requirements set forth in the zoning district and the section for such commission-approved use would be met. And the third question is, the proposed uses are consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of these regulations, will not substantially and permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring property, and will serve the public convenience and welfare. So those are your three questions. So let's start with the first one. The proposed commissioner-approved use is to be located in a zoning district wherein such use may be permitted. Jim Winning?
Yes.
Dale Cole?
Yes.
Rachel Clark?
Yes.
Oline Veach? Larry Brayton?
Yes.
Ken and Gray?
Yes.
Tom Green?
Yes.
Bobby Plummer? Marcia Gratner.
Yes.
The second question, the requirements set forth in the zoning district in this section for such commission-approved use will be met. Jim Winning?
Yes.
Dale Cole?
Yes.
Rachel Clark?
Yes.
Oline Veach? Larry Brayton? Ken and Gray?
Yes.
Tom Green? Bobby Plummer?
Yes.
Marcia Gratner.
Yes.
And the third and final question, the proposed uses are consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of these regulations and will not substantially and permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring property and will serve the public convenience and welfare. Jim Winning?
Yes.
Dale Cole?
Yes.
Rachel Clark?
Yes.
Oline Veach? Larry Brayton? Ken and Gray?
Yes.
Tom Green? Bobby Plummer?
Yes.
Marcia Gratner.
Yes.
You have 3 yeses in the affirmative, and the commissioner-approved use is approved.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our second case of the evening. It's number 4 on your agenda. It's case B2246. A request to rezone approximately 16.91 acres from agricultural A1 to general business, which is GB. The property is owned by a James Steckley of Carmel, and it's located on parcel number 012-01650-00 in Spiceland Township. So is there anyone here this evening to... Sure.
We have some handouts for you, so.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Henry County Planning Commission. We're asking the commissioners to change from this project AG1 to general business, and also addressing the interested parties that have taken their time to come to the meeting. So, my name is Jim Steckley. I represent James R. Steckley, self-directed IRA. What that means is that it's an IRA like y'all have, except that we are allowed to buy real estate. And so this property was purchased years ago from the Garner family when Grandpa passed away about 12 years ago. It's located in the northeast corner of State Road 3 and 700 South with frontage on East Central Avenue in Spiceland, Indiana. The parcel is approximately 16.91 acres. And if you notice on your first map on your packet, all the pink and blue on map 1 are now zoned business, which are in this area of the property in question. This location was the #1 choice of the Dollar General store but the owner and the broker representing Dollar General couldn't come to terms. They wanted to buy the 2 acres on the corner for the Dollar General store, and Dollar General in their purchase agreement had in there that they had to approve any other businesses or activities on the 16.9 acres, even though they were just buying 2. So we couldn't reach an agreement with the broker and Dollar General to locate there, and as you know, they went across the street. The one thing that's important about this parcel as far as business goes is you have more and more demands as time goes by. That I think one of the pluses is that you know, they won't be tearing down any affordable housing to build a business, which I think is what happened in the Dollar General case. This is just a farm piece of property that would be developed to meet all your standards and your berm and screening requirements and all the requirements of the state of Indiana and the county as far as the roads go, ingress, egress, and et cetera. There's also a legal drain runs through this property. You'll notice on, I think, let's see, where'd it show? On the 3rd page, you'll notice the parcel was identified on where it says East Central Avenue 3 and 700 south. You'll notice there's vaguely you'll see like a light drain running through the property. That is a legal drain which goes into Spiceland. Obviously, I assume when Dollar General was built that that was addressed with the county to improve it because it runs kind of southwest across 3. That's a legal drain. So we'd have to meet all requirements with the county drainage board to make sure that, you know, we did what we needed to do to develop the property. We received 4 letters regarding the property with notifications. 3 were from parties that identified themselves as adjoining or notified property owners. 1 received a letter that the person didn't identify herself, so we're not sure how she's involved or how close she is. Most businesses locate along a thoroughfare, and most areas and cities, because in this case, the ingress and egress would be off of 3. It has frontage on 3 roads, which from a development standpoint is desirable, we think, because it wouldn't impact anybody to the east on these other 2 roads, East Central and 700. We will meet all berm and screening requirements, and if we need to do more, we'd be willing to do that when the property is developed, because the parties that are interested is to the east of the property, adjoining property. There's like 3 properties there. We do want to be annexed to the city of Spiceland eventually. We're going to do that whenever that comes about. And the other thing that a development, when you go commercial, it would take a while to develop this piece, but it would increase the tax base for both Henry County and the city of Spiceland, town of Spiceland. If you go through the packet, page 2 is a letter from Steve Slossier. He's with Schrader Companies. He's appraised this property over the years for my IRA. You're required to appraise it every year for value for your IRA. He wrote this little letter, which, if you want me to, I'll read it. You want me to read it, or you want to read it, sir? I don't think the people, I thought you had a screen here, but you don't, so.
I don't know that's necessary to read it unless
Okay.
other commission members desire him to read it. No.
Okay. And then, as I said, the second page is the map that shows letter, which you have in your packet, is item 1, 2, and 4 on the letters that we received. The people had concerns. Letter 3, I'm not sure who she is or how she's involved, so that letter's included in your packet also with her concerns. The main concerns seem to be they don't want anything to change, you know. They want to keep the way it is forever and keep rural and ag and so forth. And I think there was a worry about devaluation, which I think the second page, Steve addressed that. I don't think that anything we would do would devaluate the property, you know. I own property in Wayne County and Henry County. I've owned Henry County land for a long time. Not my intent to devaluate anybody's property or cause them any harm. I just think that this is a location that attunes itself to commercial or business, general business zoning or general business zoning, and we ask the commission to consider it for changing from Ag 1 to general business. And you notice on that map, like I told you, that there are several properties around this property, even on the east side of the 3, that are already zoned business in this area. Do you have any questions for me?
I'll start with a couple of them. Is this actually annexed in Spiceland when Spiceland did the annex? I'm hearing no. Yeah, go ahead, please, Darren. You would be the best one to address that.
So, a little background on this. When Mr. Steckley approached the town about possibly seeking to rezone, the town essentially was supportive of a rezone as long as he voluntarily allowed annexation. The town is going through that process. It should have already been annexed before it got here. There was a mix-up in a legal ad issue. So the town has already had the public hearing on the annexation. This property will be in the town limits of Spiceland this time next month. So it's already gone through all of the requirements. They've had their hearing, and then next month they'll vote on the final ordinance. But as of right now, no, it is not in the town limits of Spiceland, but it is anticipated that it will be
In progress, you're saying. Is it also served in by the South Henry Regional Waste District currently? Is there?
Well, there's nothing on the property this time, but it would be served by the South Henry.
Okay.
If it were to be developed for anything.
So currently there's no water or sewer available on this property at this time?
Right. It's adjacent to, there's water and sewer. It wouldn't be Spiceland's electric. I think this is served by Duke or possibly REMC.
Okay.
But water, sewer, and electric are all available on the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And just to make it clear, I'm just speaking as a knowledgeable citizen here. I don't represent the town board of Spiceland. I don't sit on the town board of Spiceland. I'm a resident of Spiceland who has knowledge of what's occurred over the last couple of months. So, as you all know, Spiceland went through a comprehensive planning process, finished up about a year ago. And part of that process, and it was brought up during the Dollar General, is that the intent was the community wanted to continue to see the State Road 3 corridor improved for business. So that's part of the reason why, and this actually happened prior to the comprehensive plan, but the town put the overlay district on. So that's why Dollar General looks the way it does. So if you go look at Dollar General Mount Summit or Wilkinson, you'll see that it looks entirely different than the one in Spiceland. That's because Spiceland has extra requirements and regulations on business. So if there was to be a business, if this were to get rezoned and there was to be a business that applied to go here, they would still have to get approval through the town board for how it looks, for screening, for landscaping, all of the stuff that we went through with Dollar General. So Spiceland very much wants to see and continue to see the corridor grow and be a resource for business. That was one of the things that was called out in the comprehensive plan, that the community was talking about all those amenities that they want. I mean, we very much valued the small town and want to keep that small town feel, but the opportunity to add those amenities or to grow Spiceland was on State Road 3. So the things that were called out obviously was a store. Specifically, Dollar General was mentioned in the comprehensive plan, which we now have. But people continue to want more shopping options, more retail options. And, you know, as you all have seen, Spiceland supported the rezone of the property that was south of Moe's Auto, rezoned, supported obviously the Dollar General, and even supported the property that was to the south between the carpet store and the trucking company for its rezone. The concern there with the council at the time was that that would not be in the overlay district. So I think they wanted to head that off at the pass, that if this was to be rezoned general business, then the town wants to make sure that they have a say in the aesthetics, in the landscaping, in how it would affect, you know, neighbors, including traffic and how the roads would be situated. So even if this was to be approved for general business right now, whatever development happens would still have to go through the town, and there would still be quite a bit of input on making sure that that business is good for the community and looks good.
That's provided the annexation actually occurs, which you said right now has not occurred.
Right, it's not finalized, but like I said, they did have their public hearing last month. My understanding was there was no issues, so they have to wait after the public hearing. So I think everything's on track for that. One other point, though, I do want to bring up is he mentioned the drainage. So that was brought up when we talked about Dollar General. And as you all remember, we had a heck of a deal with drainage over there. They've addressed a lot of that. You know, you all and the town, you know, made sure that tried to contain that water that was on their site, but also upsized the culvert that went under so it would help flow through. But that was only kind of part of the problem. The biggest problem is this is a huge watershed that's up north and east of this property, and it all funnels right through his property. And we discussed, even when we were talking Dollar General, that ideally some of this water that comes over to Dollar General and affects all those people south of that area would be retained on his property because it's such, you know, it's got a good waterway. The only way that's going to happen, though, is if this ends up being general business, because the Drainage Board can't make it under agriculture, or even if it was residential, to control that water flow. So if this was to be rezoned to general business, they would be required to retain their water, which would help, you know, that flow down south.
I think Mr. Steckley
Yeah.
alluded to going through the requirements of the Drainage Board. Have you been in communication with the County Drainage Board?
I was in contact with, through Chris Garner, probably 5 years ago regarding this property. And we didn't change anything existing except that I believe Chris did some work on the drainage on the property, the 16.91 acres, because it's been a real problem because it hadn't been taken care of, sir. And as I said in my earlier statements, I understand it is a problem, and it'll have to be addressed if you do decide to join general business. But we'll have to meet with the Drainage Board to have retention on that property. But there's enough property there that we can have some retention. But as you can tell, you go on the Spiceland side of 3, there's virtually no room to do any retention until you get way south of Spiceland. And that's too late, you know, the water's still going to back up, so.
When you say retention, you're talking about like a large retention pond or?
Retention on the property, yes, sir. You have to control the flow. Any extra runoff we have to retain on the property and monitor the flow of those extra needs.
I know when we met on Dollar General last July.
I don't think they did much to the drainage on that.
there were citizens and planning commission members had great concern when we had heavy rains going through that property and through that county drain. So I assume that both the town of Spiceland, if this is annexed, and the county drainage board would have much to say about properly addressing that during periods of flood.
Yeah, and I have Nathan Althouse, which I forgot to introduce. He's the owner of Miller Survey in Noblesville, and he's done all my survey work for probably Miller Survey and Nathan for probably 30 years. And he's here to answer questions if you have any questions regarding engineering, because he's an engineer surveyor. And so he can answer some technical questions that I wouldn't be qualified to answer. So he's sitting right over here if you got a question for him, but his name is Nathan.
Dale?
Correct me if I'm right or wrong. As I'm looking at this map,
Which
site plan.
Which map one or which one, sir?
the site plan is north of Spiceland,
Southeast.
South,
south of Spiceland?
yes. It's on the east side of
Directly east.
3.
Directly east across 3. See where it says R3 at the top?
Well, I'm thinking my head, West Spiceland.
Okay, that's, I understand. That's fine.
It's across the road at Dollar General. But
So it would be south of the new building.
Across the street. It's across the street. Now, if you look where it says site, sir, on the first map, you see where it says site? On the first map, the number 1 page. It says on the parcel, it says site. You look across the street to the pink. That's the Dollar General.
Are you following that, Dale? There
That
you
makes
have it.
sense?
Right there, that's where Dollar General is.
and there's a church to the south, right?
Yes, sir. There's a church right across the road. Yes, sir.
And it's still meeting. I mean, it's an active church.
Yes, it is.
Additional questions at this point? We can revisit. Go ahead, Bobby.
Do you have it, and you may not, but do you have plans, a certain plan for what type of development is going to go in? Have you gone that far, or are you just looking to rezone and haven't gotten any plans for the future yet?
Just look to rezone, and so if we have a prospective buyer, interested party, they would know some guidelines with the general business zoning of what they could put there, number one, and number two, what the requirements would be to, put a business there, which would bring jobs to the community as well as resources.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You have one, looks like one of the persons who wrote with a concern, Mr. Howard, butts up against this property.
Well, actually, if you look at, in your packet, we've got them numbered. If you look at page 3, sir,
Yes.
you'll see 1, 2, and 4.
Right,
Okay, if you match the letters up that are attached,
right.
1, 2, 3, 4, the only one we don't know, the mystery person, is a lady. There she is. Okay, this is a lady here with a gentleman. So I guess they are fiance and they own the house together. So I assume she would be one of these houses. Number 2. There you go. So number 2 would be this couple, and then of course 1 and 4. And you see where they are as far as you join the property. But the requirements would require us to berm and screen this whole east property line from these people. If we develop this property, you have in your zoning, and Spiceland has it in their zoning, they're pretty stringent, by the way, because I do business in Carmel, Noblesville, and Westfield, and, they're not left way behind their requirements.
Ladies first.
I guess my concern is from a noise and a light issue. Is there, I don't know what Spiceland's requirements are once it's
We would have to
annexed,
meet
but-
all requirements for the general business zoning, and obviously, I wouldn't want to do anything to be detrimental to my neighbors anyway, so, you know, as long as I'm still kicking. I'm 81 this month, so, you know.
So is there any, I guess my concern is when I lived in Indianapolis, Entenmann's Bakery would come at 3 o'clock in the morning and deliver, and Saturday mornings, I guess you would say, or Sunday mornings, it was really loud, and I guess that's my concern for 2, 1, 4, and I'm not sure some of these others, but I guess from a personal level, I would want to make sure that they didn't have to deal with something like that.
We would have to address that with Spiceland when we had a set plan, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, it is not my intent to do any detrimental to my
I
neighbors,
know.
period.
But sometimes intent doesn't.
I know. Well, we'll have to have, I'm not sure what the requirements specifically are for the screening on the east property line, but I assume it's at least 40 feet. Might be more than that. I'm not positive. Maybe Darren could enlighten us on that, but it would be an adequate screening from the neighbors. They would have as much privacy as they have now. They'd be looking at some trees. I'm sorry? Well, you'd be screened. Anyway, we'll save that for later. They can talk about it.
So you would have to meet whatever the requirements are from the town of Spiceland once it's annexed. And I
Yes,
don't know
sir.
if Darren knows off the top of his head, since he was on the council there, what the setbacks and those requirements might be.
So the county has minimum buffering requirements for parking lots and parcels that are business abutting residential. I don't know what those are off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But the town goes above and beyond what the county minimum is. So if someone was to present, if this was to get rezoned to general business, then they would have to meet whatever the minimum standards are in your zoning ordinance as far as setbacks, berms, and landscaping. But the town could go even further and say, if someone would present a plan and say, that's great, but we would prefer you be even farther back, or taller trees, or a different tree, or a fence. And that's all things that we went through with Dollar General that, required their fencing and some landscaping on it. It was above and beyond what the county required.
I have a couple questions. When you talk about Spiceland would have a requirement, is that even if they are not annexed, that Spiceland can still put those requirements on them? So is there a grandfather clause? My question is, like, it's supposed to happen next month, but let's say it doesn't, and it's delayed a year. He gets passed, they put in whatever kind of business they want with no kind of boundaries. Can you then they become annexed, can you go in and go, okay, now you need to fix this, or if he did it before annexed, do you have any control then of making him, or making, when I say, sorry, but the business fix those things?
Understand.
That's question number one.
Again, Darren Jacobs, citizen, not town board president anymore or zoning administrator. You still have, again, like I said, the county minimum requirements that are what would apply for any general business currently. So your standards would still apply to his property no matter what happens. He's going to have to meet those minimum standards. Your question is if for whatever reason the annexation doesn't go through and he started construction of something, again, he would have had to have met all of your standards if he was going to start construction. Could the town come back and impose restrictions? I wouldn't think so. Not if you've already issued a permit for him to construct under your set of plans. That would be what's considered at that point, if it did become a Spiceland, it would have been a legal non-conforming use, which would mean, hey, Spiceland has maybe greater restrictions, but because it was built under your rules, I don't think they could force anything greater. I mean, the only thing I would say to that is that, you know, at this time, he's not presenting any type of business, so I don't know that anything's going to move that fast, but, and I don't know what would slow Spiceland down, but you're absolutely correct. Spiceland could not come back in if he broke ground tomorrow and started building something.
My next question is, did I hear correctly that Dollar General had originally looked on your property to build? Yes. So my question is, why not go for this zoning prior when businesses were looking? Why now?
Well, I wasn't looking for, the property wasn't listed for sale. I had a broker approach me. You know, they have people out looking for sites for Dollar General and other businesses, and brought the opportunity to me. We negotiated. We got down to where we had a written offer and everything, and then they had the addendum to the written offer that Dollar General, the person that would buy the property, they usually sell off these properties, you know, and lease them to an investor. They would have control over the balance of my 16.91 acres. So I'd have to go to Dollar General, the broker, to get anything approved. They had a list of things that you couldn't do with the balance of the property. And after talking to my attorney, there was no way, and you know where, that I was going to sign something like that, because they were only buying 2 acres. I told them, I said, buy the 16.91, you can do what you want with the property. But then they went across the street and bought the, what is it, 1.7 acres or something? Darren, something like that? They put the Dollar General at 1.7 acres over there and tore a house down. And again, they do what? The house is still standing. It's across the road. They moved it? Yeah. Okay, well, they relocated, I'm sorry. Okay, because I know it used to be where the Dollar General is. I didn't know that, so I stand corrected. Any other questions?
Okay, at this time, we'll ask you to step back, and we're going to open the meeting up to the general public to make comments. I would appreciate it if you would keep your comments to 3-4 minutes, if at all possible. So at this time, and please identify yourself when you come up. So go ahead.
My name is Scott Weaver. I'm not trying to cut in front of anybody, but I think I've lived there longer than anybody in attendance, I think, so.
Yeah.
I'll pull it close to me. I'll try to make it as brief as I can. I purchased my property in 1997. 3 reasons. Same most other people have purchased their property. I could afford it. I like the home. I like the location. I've lived there ever since. 2011, I outgrew the home. I was fortunate enough to where I owned enough property. I loved the area. I loved being in a farming community. I built next door on my existing property, so I still, in essence, live on the same property. You mentioned Spiceland wanting to grow. That is true. I agree completely with that. But I think what the residents of Spiceland want to do is grow towards 70, not where it affects the community. I would have to personally sit on my front porch now and look at whatever business you put in. These people would have to sit on their patio and look at whatever business is put in. These people would have to sit in their property and look at whatever's put in. You talk about the Dollar General, no one does that. Well, correctly. I'm sorry. But the people right behind it, the Dollar General's beside them, they put a fence up. People across the street, he had a business where Dollar General was, but he's not directly facing it. We would actually have to sit and face it. We talk about berms, stuff like that. The property that he has is about 2 foot lower than the road. So it's the lowest piece of property in that whole area. So now if you back up 200 foot to my front porch, you'd have to have a 20-foot berm for me not to see it. There's no way that you're going to make it to where some of us neighbors don't have to see it. You talk about you're gonna have easements on 3. I'm sure Rachel could probably attest to the traffic accidents. They're already happening on 3 because it's just too congested now. You have people that driving down 3 at 45 or 50 mile an hour with other people trying to slow down and pull into their driveways. People slowing down to turn off my road. I've almost been rear-ended numerous times. I think it would benefit the community. It would make more sense to take advantage of existing business zoned property less than a mile up the road where there's no houses, there's no residents. Yes, there is a property just to the east of me. I've known the property owner for years. I think, I'm not going to say lie because he's not here, but I think he represented himself wrong when he asked for that zoning to be changed to business. He approached everybody and said, I just want to put a building up to store stuff in. I'm going to put a lot of trees up. He's a great guy. He takes great care of his property. As soon as the zoning was changed to business, the for sale sign went up. And we were all, I'm going to say, lied to. I don't appreciate that, but that's what happened. So that's why nobody objected to that property. He said, I'm just going to put a big barn, a nice barn up, similar to the one that I have, just to store some equipment in, to get it out of the way and out of sight. Plant a lot of mature trees, it wouldn't affect anybody. Nobody's going to have to sit and look at anything. It's just a barn with a yard around it to mow. Like I said, nobody objected, and as soon as it got changed, he put it up for sale.
On this map, where are you located?
Directly to the east.
Directly to the east from,
Could I?
Sure.
Yeah, because I can't see my glass. Okay, you see
Are
where
you
it's,
on map 3?
this
Yeah.
map?
Here.
See where it says East Central Avenue? See where it says GB? I'm directly next to it.
This is yours.
This is me, yes.
Weaver, right?
Yes, correct. Also, it was mentioned that being annexed in. I've owned that property and the one next to it since 1997. I've approached Spiceland numerous times asking. There was also an elderly lady that lived in the next house. She's passed away. Asked if we could be zoned into the Spiceland to reap some of the benefits, mainly snow removal, stuff like that, because it's a battle every year to get our roads plowed. They said no, there was no benefit financially for Spiceland to annex us into the town.
will
I asked
you
after-
be annexed in if this is annexed in?
Why would I not be?
This is a voluntary annexation, it's only Mr. Stanton's property. No one
Right.
else can.
So that's my thing. When people come to him and say, would you annex me in? That way I could at least have some snow removal, stuff like that. No, it's no benefit to the town board. Bringing business in, it benefits the town financially. But the town doesn't have to live across the street from it. The people in the middle of town that say, I'd like to have something come in so I don't have to drive to Newcastle to do my shopping, that's fine, but they don't have to look at it and live across the street from it. You don't have to worry about the traffic, the noise, the things that would go on at a business that I would have to look at when it's across the street from me. There's plenty of business opportunities for them to go in a mile up the road where there's traffic lights, turn lanes at 3 and 70. And that's when, I know personally, because I was at the board meetings when Spiceland asked to annex and grow, it was, we want to grow towards the gateway of 3 and 70, not across from somebody's residential property. They talked about sewer. When I built my home in 2011, there is no sewer right there. There's sewer on the east side of 3, on the west side of 3. There's nothing on this side. So I had drilled a well, but to connect into the city sewer or the South Indian Regional Waste, I have to pipe my sewage 1,180 feet up to the Moe's Auto Sales. That's the closest tap in. They said the only way I could tap in to the other side was to tear the State Road 3 up, tear other people's yards and property up, and I'd be responsible for paying for that. I'm sure even whatever business goes in, they would have to follow the same thing, but I don't think people would want their yards tore up if they knew that that's what would happen if a business went in. There may be some people that are not here in attendance tonight that don't realize that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Go ahead.
There's two other problems that exist on that property when you get a big rain. If you get 2.5 to 3 inches of rain, there's at least 5 acres of that that's underwater, laying in water. The other problem is there's a confined hog operation a 1/4 mile east. If they happen to have applied manure within that time frame, all that water standing in that field is now saturated with hog manure. And if you want me to get pictures of that, I'll be glad to do that. It's happened twice in the last 2 years, and I'm sure it'll happen again. Dollar General has not experienced that yet, but they will, and they won't be happy.
Thank you.
I am Monica Peters, and I am the property of 795 East Central Avenue. That property surrounds me on 2 sides. I have one question. Before rezoning this, will you sell it?
I'm sorry?
Instead of rezoning, will you sell it? I know several people that are interested. But you just said a broker approached you about it. That's why you're rezoning it to put a business there. Okay, thank you for that. Then let's not rezone it. If he's planning on keeping it, we don't need to do that. 2, as Mr. Weaver said, I moved to the community also because it's rural. I came from very rural, way in the country. I didn't want to live in Newcastle. I didn't want to have neighbors on top of me. I didn't want all the congestion. It is horribly congested. And as far as the annex, like you spoke, I have asked numerous times to please clean our road. Can't get it done. I've asked the county. County says no, that's Spiceland's. I know this is no one's business here, but I have yet to ever see anyone have snow removal on our road. In front of my house, there's numerous potholes that are this deep. But yet, that's going to get annexed so they can get taken care of, but the neighbors out there can't get it done. This business is not good. And as I said, you talking about a flood, please do come out. I'll let you sit on my back porch anytime when it rains. The road has been shut down, Central Avenue. When it rains, it is so bad because you can't get through. The elderly lady he talked about that lived there before, because she always had ambulances coming, she was in horrible health, couldn't always get through to get to her because of her issue. I know this has nothing to do with the zoning part, but it's a horrible drainage area. It's not been addressed at all. They did put more drainage over on the west side where General Dollar went, but on this side there's not. The pipe is only this big. Yeah, there's about 2 or 3 of them, but that's not enough because all the farms above it, everything runs down. I have numerous concerns, and I addressed it in my email about what will it do to my property value. I have never, ever talked to anybody, ever, I'm open to it, that a business has went around their home and their property value stayed the same or increased. I don't want the traffic. I don't want the riffraff. I just don't want the dirt, the noise, the lights. I didn't even think of that. Just the overall pollution and look. That's just like if you bought 50 acres in the country because you wanted to be in the country, then all of a sudden somebody bought next to you and put in a factory. I understand this may or may not be a factory. I don't know, but that is not why I moved to that area, nor Mr. Weaver or these people here. It's a really nice area, and I do know there's people in the area that has expressed interest to buy this property so they don't have to worry about rezoning it, and it can stay agricultural. In fact, I would like to buy some that is strictly to the south of me where it butts up against my property. I am right on the corner. I am the house right on the corner, the big brick house.
I thought you said you joined the property.
It does.
And-
This property is on all this property.
Oh, so you own this property?
No. This property right here. All of this is, from what I gather,
Can we ask that you address the commission, please, and not
I'm
have
sorry.
your side
I'm sorry.
conversation?
I'm just trying to show him where my property was. I'm on the
Okay.
corner of East Central and East Street. I'm right on the corner.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're-
thank you.
You're number 4 on his map.
Okay. I haven't seen the map, so, okay.
The drainage issue, could I tell you something real quick so you have an understanding of it on the map?
Real quickly. One moment, go ahead. Okay. Okay. And one comment on, if this gets rezoned in general business, I feel pretty confident a factory would never be built under general business. I believe I can say that, so. Okay, other people wish to speak?
Okay, my name is Ramsell Howard. I'm the one that purchased the home on 700 South, number 2 on the paper. And as you can tell, I'm in a wheelchair, so I needed additional funding to make the home more accessible for me. It was an old country home. Since then, I've had approximately $150,000 put into it with a ramp, all that. And like the lady was saying, I wanted country, country living, out in the, peace and quiet. I can see the dollar store lights across the cornfield, but once the corn comes up, I won't be able to see it. If this gentleman here sells that 16.9 acres, yeah, that's going to butt right up to my property, and I would just rather be bought out so I can move somewhere else out in the country. I'm not for it. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. I've lived in Spiceland for 8 years.
And you are?
I'm Kinsey. I'm his fiance.
Okay.
We decided to move back to Spiceland because of how small it is, because of how fantastic of a community it is. We live in the country on this side. There's plenty of business opportunities in Spiceland. There was a grocery store that could be redone. I mean, it's sitting there empty. It's ugly, so it needs fixed up anyway. Why not put a business in there? And why destroy property that nobody wants to look at, nobody around there wants it there, when there's opportunities in Spiceland? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm assuming these 3 people is voting or against it. These 2 people are for. Is that what we're at?
No, I haven't heard anybody speak for it. All the speakers have spoke against it at this point. So at this time, I'll ask Mr. Private Citizen Darren Jacobs.
So I'll speak in favor of it. Some of the issues that were brought up, obviously, I wish I'd have known that folks wanted annexed in, because I was on the council for almost 10 years, and as a lot of you know, I did a lot of the annexation. So I wish I'd have known that there was folks that wanted annexed in. I'd have certainly looked at that. So I don't know what point you approached the town about annexation, but yeah. So yeah, and I don't know who you talked to, but I wish I'd have known at that time, and we can. Some of the concerns that were raised, I mean, obviously the roads, I mean, that's a different issue, but I mean, they're not Spiceland roads; these are county roads that are out there. But if there is annexation that happens, I think it depends on percentage-wise. So the roads may actually end up becoming part of Spiceland, depending on how that works out. The drainage and things, as everybody's pointed out, it's an issue. We knew it was an issue with Dollar General, but the only way that we can address it, we can't address it right now. The only way we can address it is if there is business that comes in. So I understand everybody's concerns. I mean, everyone always has concerns about the unknown of what's coming down the road. I just hope that everyone takes into consideration that nobody's out to try to hurt anybody. That includes the planning commission and the town board, and that whatever was to go in, if it was to be zoned general business, would be for the benefit of the community, and that the elected officials and appointed officials would make sure that whoever comes in would follow the requirements and will help protect the citizens and make sure that that's not an issue. This area has been and continues to be developed as business. Yes, there's a lot of land up at 70 that could also be developed as business, but there seems to be a desire on that end of town, and part of that is because this is more local focused business. I think the type of business we would expect at 70 is going to be more interstate traffic business. The businesses that are on that end of town are more likely to serve the community than what's up at 70.
Darren, what would it need to be zoned to be manufacturing? General business is for things like Dollar General. It'd
General
have to be
business
industrial.
is essentially retail. So anything that's retail or restaurants, if it was to be any type of manufacturing at all, it would have to be an industrial zoning. So any type of manufacturing. So retail would be stores, restaurants, things like that.
So it
And
would
some
not-
of those uses also would get commission-approved uses. Like a gas station couldn't go here without coming before you all. And there's several other general businesses that would require additional approvals on top of just the rezone.
Okay, everything in our industrial parks, either light industrial or heavy industrial, correct?
Right.
Okay, and this is nowhere in that
This would not be anything
ballpark.
like that. This would be akin to Casey's, to Dollar General, to the gas station that's there, to the IMPA solar park. It's general business. And
It's Mo's general business?
I think Mo's like a highway business, because that's another distinction. This would also, under general business, would not be for open lot type sales. So under general business, and I'd have to check, but I think it's mostly internal retail. So think storefront, think restaurant, something like Mo's, like an auto lot or a tractor dealership or something like that would be more of a highway business. Something that was a big commercial, like not this is going to happen, but a Home Depot or would be like a highway business. So this would be kind of internal retail.
Thank you. I will give Mr. Steckley a couple moments if he needs to respond to any of the comments.
Well, the only comment I had to make is on your map 3 that you'll notice on the map across from the piece in question is that they're marked on your map general business, and that other one next to it across that short road's highway business, HB, highway business, just to make a note that on your map that you notice where it says HB, that's highway business.
Is that Smith?
And Darren has explained the difference. It's just a business designation they have, so. Any other question the commission has for me? I'd be glad to answer anything that you have that I'm able to answer, I guess. But
I
again,
think we're
it's not
good.
my intent to damage anybody or devaluate their property. I just think this is a location that it's on a major thoroughfare, and there wouldn't be any traffic going east off either one of these side roads to speak of. I mean, most people would go ingress off of 3 and egress onto 3 if it ever is developed general business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Discussion among the commission members? My one comment, Rachel beat me to it, is I do have a concern, the fact that, yeah, Spiceland's had a public hearing about annexing it, but they have not yet acted on it. I'm a little concerned if we give them and all we're doing is advising the commissioners. Commissioners will have final say on whether this rezone happens or not. Anyway, I'm a little concerned about recommending a rezone at this point without knowing that annexation is going to happen or has happened, I guess I should say. So, apparently Darren wants to address my comment.
Well, to address that issue, because of the timing, again, this was supposed to have already been annexed into Spiceland. There's actually a question of who this would go before, what recommendation. So, to your concern, this could be, and I don't, you have to discuss this with your attorney, but if Spiceland is going to pass the ordinance, if Spiceland passes the ordinance to rezone it next month, then they could conceivably be the one who gets your recommendation, because it would be in the town limits at that point. So if your concern is that Spiceland would not have control over it, perhaps you can make that a condition of your rezone, that it only go before, again, I'm not your attorney, but only go before Spiceland wants it to rezone.
You mean annexed? Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
think that's a good idea,
Okay,
a condition of annexation.
okay. Is that kosher, Sean, if we were to add that to, if someone were to make a motion to add that to the motion?
Someone would make that specific motion, and we would do a yes or no vote on that specific motion with the condition specified. So, the annexation condition is specified on the yes or no.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
Yes, sir.
I think,
I'm Don Crandall. I live across the road on the west side of Free, right by Dollar General. And I think that you ought to get a hold of the drainage board at the county ditch running up through there. There's a farmer that just tiled a field on the east or north side of 650 that's hooked into that. And if you want to see water, come down there Saturday morning and look. They talk about Dollar General doing such a fine job. There's straw laying out in the waterway where the water's supposed to drain down through there, washed off their bank. They don't mow the roadside, their grass. It was also our understanding they're supposed to put a fence up between us and Dollar General, and it's not been done. I talked to the guys building the fence behind it. They said there was nothing there. To me, put it bluntly, it's a bunch of crap.
I would have appreciated you had done that during the public comment, but we allowed it. The floor is open to commission members. Okay?
On the water problem, did the dollar store help or make it? No, it ain't helped a bit. They put in, okay, where the road is, they go into it, they put in, I don't know, 5 or 6 cement culverts. But the water can't get good fast enough. And it's still in that waterway, it's in our corner of my yard, washing out places. And they're supposed to help this? No. Now, that's why I say you better get a hold of the county drain board, those guys, or whoever, to get it down there and look at this mess. That's on the east side of his property, because it stands in water when we get 2 to 3 inches of rain. And they say we're supposed to get about 4 inches of rain tomorrow through Saturday morning. So there's gonna be a lot of water standing down there. And I say it runs, north of 650, down through there to, Garner's Field. That's a big county ditch running down through there. It's not just a little tile or, it's a county drainage ditch.
I will say one thing, that's the prettiest dollar store you ever saw, landscaping wise. I don't know how long it'll last, it looks good.
You've been down by there looking at the ditch, all the straw and stuff, they tried to clean it up.
Is 650, Darren might, 650 Main Street, I mean, if Main Street of Spiceland goes straight east, that's 650 that he's alluding to? Okay.
Yeah, 650 goes through, that's Main Street, Spiceland.
Goes by the gas station.
Yep.
Goes west.
If this were approved, would, and Spiceland annexes, that's still a county drain going through Spiceland, so it'd still have to go through the drainage board, or Spiceland would confer with the drainage board since it's a county ditch?
Still have to go to the drainage board and be approved for entitled development. That's the problem.
I know when we were addressing Dollar General, that topic of that county drain kept surfacing to the top of issues because of flooding, and that drain has never been addressed properly.
So, yeah, the drainage board, as far as the Dollar General, the drainage board was heavily involved in that, and the surveyor and the county engineer have been involved in that process. So,
It's up to you.
Make it very quick, please. Well, I can tell you the only jurisdiction the drainage board would have had is if that farmer was hooking into a court drain, a regulated drain. I don't know if there's a regulated drain that you guys are talking about or not, but that's the only jurisdiction the drainage board would have, or the surveyor. If it was a private drain, that farmer could tile all day long. Well, that I don't know. I don't know if it's a regulated drain or not. No. Okay. We'll need, if we want to take it to a vote, we'll take a motion. If there's no motion made, obviously, we have a problem here, that no recommendation would be made. So I don't know, if we take no vote, does that mean the commissioner still would look at it, or?
I make a motion to deny the rezone.
Do we need a motion to deny? Okay, good enough. Do we have a second? She made a motion to deny the rezone. And Marcia has seconded that rezone, or motion, I'm sorry. So I believe a roll call would probably be in order.
The motion is to deny the rezone. Motion made by Bobby Plummer, seconded by Marcia Bradner. So if you want to deny it, you're going to vote yes. If you want to deny the denial, then it's no. Is that
Yep.
Can we ask a question before the roll call?
okay?
Could this be entertained again after we find out if it's annexed by Spiceland? Like next month, if we found out for sure,
We would need to table, I would think, would be the proper way to handle
table
that.
would be the proper
table it
procedure.
properly. But right now, we have a motion on the table that we have to vote on. So at this point, we're going to allow Sean to take a roll call vote.
So if you want to deny it, vote yes. If you don't want to deny it, vote no. Jim Winnie?
No.
Dale Cole?
Yes.
Rachel Clark?
No.
Colleen Beach? No. Larry Gray? Yes. Ken Gray?
Yes.
Tom Green? No. Bobby Plummer? Marcia Bradner?
Yes.
5-4. Motion
is passed, yes. So does this mean it has to wait 1 year before it can be brought back forward? Is that correct?
I got a question.
Sure.
Again, with this body just made a recommendation, so it's not tabled for a year. It still goes before commissioners, or potentially the town board's license as well. So.
Okay, so it's all the neighbors gonna be informed about all that? Because I wasn't informed that he was gonna annex it in. But everybody's sitting here saying it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't handle that, and so I don't know.
Okay, so for the purpose of tonight's meeting, the motion to rezone, or the request to rezone has been denied. And then whether it goes to the commissioners can take it, or the town of Spiceland, if they annex, do whatever they're gonna do. But for tonight's purposes, it's denied, and move on to the next thing.
Okay.
Question, I guess. Clarification, please. So, I guess legal question. So does this mean I have to wait a year, or does?
Our recommendation is to deny, whether this goes to the commissioners or to the town of Spiceland. That would be determined on your whole annexation issue, and there's other things involved. So our recommendation is to whatever board that's gonna look at this, whether it's commissioners or the town, we deny the rezone.
So whom do I look to commissioner-wise? That would be step 2, sir?
Mm-hmm.
The next thing would either, again, if it's county property, it's commissioners. If it's inside the town of Spiceland, it would be Spiceland. But
So,
there's this whole limbo about whether this is gonna be annexed or not. That's, you see the ambiguity.
So should I wait a month?
well,
I understand.
you can't, I don't believe you could come before this board in a month, but you can still go forward with your annexation with Spiceland. This does not
Well, I
affect
want to
your.
be annexed. I already,
y-
a long
your-
time ago, but COVID, as you know, set everything back
Yeah,
for everybody.
That may be. You can go forward with your annexation with Spiceland. There's nothing this commission has any jurisdiction over. But
Okay.
I'm assuming from what our attorney has said, this will go to the commissioners for them to look at it. And all our vote was advisory. We weren't going to make the final decision tonight anyway.
Well, I
can't.
think
We're not. We
you all
don't
for your
have the
time,
power.
So,
But it goes through here, we advise the commissioners then will take it up, and they have the final say. So I'm assuming this will still go to the commissioners with our advice that they deny it. But they can overturn us,
okay. Well, thank you very much.
okay?
Yes.
All right. It's been suggested that we take a 5-minute break here. We've been going for an hour and 45 minutes, so let's take a very short break.
And then it just doesn't. Tell her I'm sorry.
AJ. Until we got off the boat, that I saw they got it's a used Chevy something. It's kind of nicer than my first car.
Okay, I think we'll get this meeting going again here. We got a public hearing coming up next. Item number 5 on your agenda is a public hearing to amend the title or the text of Title I of the Henry County Development Code, specifically in regard to size and development on parcels connected to sewer. Everybody remember that was at our last meeting 2 months ago. Darren had done quite a bit of work on looking at parcel sizes, especially inside the towns that have sewer in them is really what we were looking at. And our code was not allowing anyone to rebuild on any city lots because the lots were way too small for what our current ordinance allows for. So he worked through a bunch of language. Basically, this would mirror closer to what Knightstown and Newcastle both use currently for their lot size. I think each of you received that information. We've got a cover page here, and I don't really think I want to read the whole thing unless someone thinks I need to. I believe there were copies made available to the general public as well. Yes, Jody? Did you make copies of this? Okay. Does anyone wish to see these? Okay. So without going through a line for line item, I'm basically going to read real quickly the paragraphs that have been recommended to be changed. The first one, which is would be page 23 of the zoning ordinances. An R1, which is a single-family residential district, was established to permit one-family dwelling in urbanizing areas of the county that may expect to be served by centralized sewer and water facilities in the immediate future. It's recommended that we delete the language, density shall not exceed, the language was there, we're asking to delete it, shall not exceed 1.5 or 2.5 dwelling units per gross acre with sewer services, and 1 dwelling unit per gross acre without sewer services. Under the R2, residential districts established to permit medium-density residential development of 1 and 2 family dwelling units, it was recommended we strike the language, density shall not exceed 4 dwelling units per gross acre and 1 dwelling unit per gross acre without sewer. So 4 with sewer, 1 without. The third item is residential R3 districts, which are established to permit 2-family and multiple family dwellings in communities. Centralized water and sewer facilities are required for higher density development. It's recommended we delete the language, density shall not exceed 6 dwelling units per gross acre. Those were the recommended changes there. If you turn to the next page, there's 3 more paragraphs, and again, they cover the same language, actually. It's just in another area. It's called 6-1, which is intent. The language, again, is the same. And then the next page, which actually be page 32, there's actually a chart, and we've added the language dwelling multifamily with a sewer system, and it would be permitted in R1 and R3, or R2 districts, rather. And then the next page, we've deleted okay, that's where we really get into the nuts and bolts of the lot sizes. If you have a sewer system, we're recommending that an R1 district would be a minimum of 6,000 square feet in the lot. That would also be true of an R2 and as well as an R3 district. And we would strike the language that includes 26,136 square feet or 17,424, which much larger. And then their setback minimum lot widths, that would be recommended to be changed to 50 feet in all 3 districts. And then if you drop down the minimum front yard setback, depending on whether it's, again, if it's along a major collector road, under the R1 would be changed to 65. The others are already there. On a minor collector road, it would be changed to 40 feet under the R1 and 30 feet for lots abutting a local road or street. And then minimum setbacks would be changed under R1 to 10 feet, and also 10 feet in an R2 district, and R3 is already at 10 feet. The other language concerning apartments for residential use in a business building under general business, and I keep getting tripped up on LB. It's, remind me, LB, local business, that's it. They would be permitted in those situations. And finally, on the last page, item 1, this would be language is added, that the apartment is an accessory use to a primary business use. The second one having some addition with a deletion. Does that sound right? It's in red, I'm sorry. It says, okay, it's got deletions in it. It says that we now read that the residential use combines with the property development standards set forth in R3 districts. Again, all these language changes, I believe, would still have to go in front of the commissioners for their final approval. So again, we're in an advisory position here. So.
On page 33, where it's changed R1, R2, and R3 to 6,000 square feet, what was that number previously?
Yeah, go ahead, Darren. You're going to have to help us here.
So that was, this was on sewer, I'm sorry, or this was on sewer. It was
sewer system.
Yeah, this would have to be with sewer systems, correct?
The sewer setback, Jody, I think it was 2,600 square feet.
It
Yeah.
was for the minimum lot size, yes.
Yeah, 2,600 was the original.
Right.
0.6 of an acre, and this is going down to I think it was like 137 of an acre, which we came up with because that was the parcel sizes in
Most of the
Middletown, Moreland, those lot sizes.
Okay, thank you.
And Darren explained the rationale at the last meeting, right, April?
Yes.
Went through, I think,
Yes.
point by point, the rationale for each one of these changes.
Right.
Yeah, the majority of it was deletion, so we're not putting more restrictive, we're being less restrictive.
And just trying to meet a need in these smaller communities that have sewer in them, that they could develop these lots as houses are demolished. Currently, you would have to put together multiple lots continuously together in order to even develop one of them.
I make a motion to accept the changes to the development code as presented.
I second.
Okay.
Oling beat me.
I guess I really didn't ask, is there any comments from the public? Since this is a public hearing, and I apologize.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. That was my fault. I should have been a little quicker. Not seeing any, I guess, Bobby, you can restate your motion. Go ahead.
I make a motion to accept the changes to the development code as presented.
There's several seconds.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded to accept the language changes for the development code. We'll do a roll call again. Yes. Dale?
Dale?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item is talking about the 2022 budget. The county council has asked that we present a budget for this department. I believe they're due sometime early part of July. Darren has helped us out here, basically went through and updated the budget numbers. I think each of you received them. There is one number that may need a little adjusting. Jody just made me aware that she was told that they are intending to give all county employees a 3% raise, and our number did not reflect. Is this something I shouldn't be saying, or? Okay, never mind. All righty. Pretend I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I was made
News to this councilman.
I was made aware that there was to be an adjustment in our numbers.
So basically, what we would want to do is have those numbers reflected so that if, in fact, that occurs, then we can have that.
Potentially.
Because you don't get money you don't ask for. Right? So.
Fair enough. So that would be a slight adjustment in the budget.
I enlarged mine at home.
So what's our step here? Do we need a motion to pass it, to amend it with the?
Whatever motion you want to make there. It's your budget.
I'd like to make a motion to pass the budget with the, if there is a county raise, whatever percentage that is, if there is one, to reflect that in the budget.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the budget with a slight adjustment in it.
I think we could do a voice vote on that.
Yeah, and we don't need a roll call for that. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed. Okay, we have any unfinished business? Probably this discussion would fit under that, Sean, or should we move our
Let's go
discussion?
to, I'll
under-
wait for new business.
Okay. Is there any unfinished business? We'll move on to new business.
So, as you are aware, we do not have a current zoning administrator, and we need to figure out how we're going to go about doing that. I've been in correspondence with Mr. Shields, who is a lawyer for the commissioners. he sent me some correspondence today. I haven't had the opportunity to review that and look at that, but basically, what I would want to do with you all tonight is figure out how exactly we want to go about doing this. I do know that there were some interviews held, and that there was an attempt to get some background checks, which for whatever reason was not allowed or not funded or what have you. So this is your time to kind of discuss how you want to go about going forward from here. There's been no decision made on who would be hired or who would be even considered for that position. We have received some applicants, but I just want to put out here on the floor, this is your chance to figure out how we're going to go about doing this, because I think zoning administrator is obviously a very critical individual for this body, and it's been difficult without having someone in that position. So this is your time to discuss if you want to. If you don't, then we'll just keep going and try to find somebody. But
legally, what are the Indiana code requirements? As I read some of the correspondence between you and Mr. Shields, it indicates that the Planning Commission is the one that's supposed to interview. Is that a subcommittee of the Planning Commission? Or
correct. Yeah, and it's however you all want to do this. So, but it is fully within the purview of the Planning Commission to hire the zoning administrator. So that is not a contested legal issue at all. The question is, how do we go about doing that? Mr. Shields raised some concerns. I've tried to address those, figure out what we're going to do going forward. So, but at the end of the day, nobody's been hired at this point, but we need to get this process moving. I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand what the problem is. About 6 years ago, myself, Olene, and Mr. Russ was appointed as 3 people that selected a new planning commission, and we interviewed 2 people at that time, I remember, and we selected Darren, and then we took that name to the Planning Commission, and with approval from them. And, you know, I don't see any difference this time than then. The only difference is Jim appointed 5 people instead of 3. I don't know where he come up with the number at, but it's something that was not kept secret, that, to my knowledge, and everybody was informed that was at the meeting, and so, you know, I don't see what the problem is in regards to what we done then and what we're doing now.
I know I was not informed that there was any kind of, I was not informed that there was 5 people selected. I knew about it after the interviews.
I was not informed either until...
Wasn't that discussed in the executive meeting that all of this was decided amongst everyone who attended?
According to a letter, it was voted on and the committee was created in the executive session. According to statute, that cannot be done.
There was never any vote in executive session.
So you, Mr. Winning, just selected the people that you wanted on the committee because the Planning Commission did not vote on making a committee or who was going to be seated on it?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rowe, but I think I do have the ability as president of this commission to appoint a committee, do I not?
And that's why we're having this discussion now. You're all in the same boat. So how do we go forward from here? How do you all want to do this?
No one has been hired. There was never any intentions of hiring anyone. We understood what our limitations were, and I was simply following what I was told protocol had been in the past, and we went through the county HR department. The job was posted through the HR department. We got applicants. We interviewed those applicants, and that's all we've done to this point.
I got a copy of their stuff today, and honestly, I don't think any of them are qualified. Sitting on a planning commission or sitting on a zoning board is not qualified to be a zoning administrator. I suggest, and I would even go as far as to make a motion, that we advertise in other locations to try to find better applicants.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to re-advertise, or just go with HR and figure out how to do that, or how specifically?
Well, I would re-advertise in different avenues, whether it's at the state level. I know that there are state, for lack of a better word, groups or sites that these things can be advertised on to try to draw from a bigger pool of someone that would potentially have actually zoning admin experience.
Okay.
Yeah, Darren, I'll allow a comment since you're.
To Bobby's point, there's the state association or the American Planning Association, Untitled Chapter, can pay and they will put it on blast. But I will say that I took the posting that we had, put it on the listserv of all the planners in the state of Indiana. Plus, I gave it to every faculty member who's in urban planning at Ball State and every officer with the American Planning Association. So, I mean, hundreds of people who are actually professional planners put their eyes on it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea, and I think it needs to be advertised probably on Indeed and other places. But the planning community saw this job. You didn't get a single planner to apply. Part of the issue may have more to do with pay that's being offered. I know there's some jobs currently on the website for what's being posted that are exceeding what Henry County.
I guess I have a couple frustrations here. One, that for anyone who applied, we only got 3. If those 3 people hear that they're interviewing more, then let's say we get 0 applicants, and then those 3 people pull because they're like, well, I wasn't good enough to begin with, so then we have 0 applicants. My second frustration is the 3 people that I see wanting to push this on were the 3 people who did not come to that meeting where we all talked about this. I will say one of the people who was at the executive meeting was very, well, in the original, when we were in that executive meeting, all of these things could have been brought up and none of these things later on it was questioned about, hey, would like to see more. But at the time that we all sat down at the table, and I will say Jim opened that up and we were all discussing it, we had that ability to speak our minds and no one did.
I believe I was the only one that did not attend the Kennan did not attend the executive session.
I wrote, I was sick.
Yeah, later on, yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. And after that meeting, when there was other, in the committee, there was actual of questioning how many people applied, the quality. Well, that was in the committee, not in the executive meeting, I believe.
I would like to clarify that I emailed Darren saying I would not be able to attend both sessions given my health, and I did opt to attend the second meeting in April. I think that was on April the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a 2-hour meeting that I barely made it through. But it was not my intent to snub the executive meeting. I knew I could not do it 3 or 4 hours that night. And I apologized if that causes any problem. But I did correspond and emailed Darren to that effect. So just to clarify.
Well, go ahead, Dale.
I just, from our attorney, we do have the right to hire somebody, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
An easy way out, in my opinion, if we want to do it, is start all over. Jim selects his committee, we interview the people, and it's all over with.
Can I ask a question? Who exactly is on the committee? I never heard.
I think I can make that public, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. The people that I selected to be on the committee were Dale and Oline. Dale and Oline both had experience previously. I selected Rachel. Rachel is the board vice president. I was on the committee, and I selected, actually I initially had selected Kathy Hamilton of the BZA because we wanted somebody from that board as well. She was not able to attend the interviews, so Matt Chapman from the BZA board filled in her position, and he attended the interview meetings.
Thank you, I didn't know.
So I apologize if I needed to. It's tough to have meetings all the time, and I don't want to have meetings all the time, but should I have named the committee in a public meeting? I suppose I should have. But because of the expediency, we were attempting to get something going, and here we are. Darren's been gone now for 6 weeks almost, and we are no closer to filling this position. And we have cases coming in. We're going to need a planning administrator to act on these. So, you hate to hold up people, businesses, and things like that, but we're no closer tonight to hiring a planning administrator than we were 2 months ago, in my opinion.
I would rather take the time to do it right than do it quickly and hire somebody that's not, their skills are not transferable. They don't have what's necessary to do the job.
That's
And I suspect pay is an issue.
So would the council like to approve to increase that?
Well, apparently there's discussion somewhere about 3%, but I didn't get communicated that either, but that's okay.
And depending on how much you raise it, you might get another applicant.
That could probably be true with every position in the county.
So I think right now we have a motion on the table or on the floor to re-advertise for the position based on the response. And I think that's the motion it's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any other discussion?
I would like to know, we've talked about expanding our scope of the search. Those other services cost money. Is someone offering up dollars to pay for those services?
It has to come out of the planning budget. Commissioners don't pay for that. It's not under the commissioner's budget, and the commissioners can't. I can't, as a commissioner or any of the other commissioners, I can't spend your money. I can't say, take something out of this fund. The board has to determine which fund it comes out of, or Jody or whomever.
I would suggest,
correct, I don't believe I take the meeting stipend. You don't.
I don't.
Yeah.
And so that money that's in there for me for the meeting stipend, it's not being used.
I'm assuming that it could be, and that would be an auditor question, or, okay, Darren, private citizens, Spiceland resident.
Someone has seen the budget in mind to, I think there's contracted services in there under
I think it's like $1,000, isn't it?
the enforcement fund, maybe use that. I think that would probably be the most logical thing. Again, maybe verify with an auditor, but that makes more sense, because everything else is basically salaries or office supplies. But there is a contracted services under enforcement.
there's communication, contracted services. Bobby's correct. Just get with Debbie, the auditor. And there was also $700,000 left from the CARES Act. So money should not be an issue. It's just and if you have to have a reappropriation through the council, she can direct you how to do that, Jim. I don't think that will be an issue, is what I'm saying.
Good. Go ahead, Dale.
Jim, back to where we're at. We interviewed 3 people. The committee you selected, we voted on one. Are we going to pursue on that? or what are we gonna do? Are we gonna vote on accepting him, or?
To clarify the vote was only to recommend this person. It was not a vote to hire this person. It was just to recommend to the full commission and that was the only thing this was discussed with that. So I'm still not clear exactly how to access the funds if we, and I'm going to need help. It's not an area that I deal in as far as putting out applications or putting out. Does anybody want to step up and tell me how to do it, or?
Ann,
We have an HR.
Ann, could you come up, please?
The money would be through the auditor, and then the advertising would be through Ann.
As far as assisting, I would be happy to assist. I did not back out on helping to assist. The only thing is, my hands are tied when it comes to the questions that I was asked about budgets. I don't have any state board of accounts or any type of right within my job description or purview to go to Jody and say, hey, what's in your budget? I have to do that through the proper channels. So that was the discussion that Mr. Winning and I had on telephone. You'll have to talk to the commissioners. I cannot touch those budgets. I can't even go to the auditor and ask. Going back to the application process, I can post that. There is about, when I assisted with the highway department, it cost about $70 to run it for 6 days, 5 days in the Courier Times, I believe. So I'll be happy to get that set up. Again, cost money, and I don't have that right to say, hey, can I do that? So I'll just need some permission, and then I can run everything through Jody if that's what you want. I broadcast that. I will broadcast that on the county website. There is a free Indeed that you can use. It's going to be very limited. I don't know where you want those applications to go. And also, when you had me post those prior, there were some very particular dates, and only one of those applicants met that date. The other two should have been disqualified. So you're going to have to tell me, is it going to be open-ended or whatever? But those are some very, very certain specific details that was given to me, and just felt like, you know, if you're going to have me post that, we better probably follow our own rules. So if with the clientele that you're looking for, the professionalism, yes, the pay is probably about 10% underpaid per some of the market values. But again, that's not something I can tell you about, but we do have proper channels you can go through to the job classification, then it goes on to the council. So that's something that can be done through that. I'm telling you everything that I have in my wheelhouse right now, and if I've overlooked anything, please ask.
And I believe, I can't remember if it was Commissioner Tarantino or Mr. Shields, there is a site at the state level.
Yes.
That thing, but I can't remember exactly. I'll have to ask either one of those.
And that was something else with the highway department. I tapped
That's
into
the
some
one,
of that
yes.
for LTAP. But there are some others that possibly Mr. Curley could assist or something to get into some of those bands that would go through some of the colleges, universities, or anything in those. I also have privilege to get into the HR AIC. I can broadcast that job through them to see if they have anybody who may be moving or know of somebody. Word of mouth seems to be the best thing through the AIC broadcast. Darren, do you have any other suggestions? About $77 is what it cost the last time I ran it for the week. Yeah.
So does HR, and this is just me learning, does HR not have a budget to advertise, to recruit people to our county to work?
No, those come up from all the various departments, sheriff's departments, commissioners, all the departments across the county have their own budgets that they do that with.
Because of the necessity of the skill sets and the job descriptions for each department, that's why the department head has to, in some cases, EMS. They would hire somebody, now they do background checks, criminal background checks, drivers, all those type of things. Whereas if you hire somebody, say, for the recorder's office to do clerk work, we wouldn't have to do anything like that. They would do the professional references. So there's just a different type of management for those type of hiring processes that are handled within each department.
Oh, yeah, and the fees I understand. I just didn't know for recruitment as an
Yeah.
HR department.
My hands are limited. I have lots of ideas, but right now we're just doing what we can on our shoestring budget.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome. Anything else?
So I still don't have a clear picture on who has the authority to use some money to do that.
Well, it's typically the department head, which was Darren, so that kind of transfers over to Jody. Jody would do a claim out of whatever account, how much ever money, blah, 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 and it gets approved, signed, and paid.
A letter of
So
request.
it's the department,
Right, but I was under the understanding,
the contractual services, or,
but I'm under the understanding following the hierarchy, since there's not a department head, the letter of request would go through the commissioners, which would give authorization for it to go to
yeah,
audits.
she would have to put together the claim, and then it comes over to us.
That is a State Board of
Yes.
Accounts, that's why I kept referring, talk to the commissioners, because they are the only ones who can venue that money through, to the
Yeah,
auditors.
she would do the
Yes.
claim, and then it would come to us for approval.
So my question is, if that's the case, can you just do all of the recruitment? Like send, obviously having more of an interest in, like you talk about the professions knowing details, could you get into LinkedIn, do all of those things, since you probably have a better expertise of what we would be looking for and what avenues to go through?
Okay. And I'm not trying to say she can't do it, by no means, so please don't take this as a disrespectful statement that I'm getting ready to make. This lady has so much to do right now that her plate is probably spilling over and there's mold growing on it, okay? So I can do all those things. I just cannot do anything regarding the background checks and all the things that cost. I'm happy to do all that. I think I did everything that was asked of me, but when it came to those situations, I couldn't. So I can assist her. We can get those letters of requests written, get them approved by the commissioners because they have an open spot because the liaison would have to step in, and then get them to the auditor. I would be happy to help her, walk her through that and take care of all that. It's when you do the hiring process, as far as the interviews, I just thought that perhaps you would need the commissioners or your, I don't know the terminology, but you would need your committee that's appointed. I'll be happy to set in on anything, but I don't overstep my bounds because there's a department here. So I'm not saying she couldn't do it, but if she wants to, that's fine, and I'll help guide her. But if she doesn't, I can do it, and I will keep her informed, whichever way works out best.
Because I think the courier would be redundant. I mean, this is local, it's been posted.
And that's why we were talking.
Correct. So there is
AIC.
AIC, their platform, get a hold of, possibly talk to Mr. Curley to see what other broadcasts I can make on that. Indianapolis Star was one that I checked out. Yes, it is a little pricey. You're talking probably about $100, and that's in the Sunday paper, but it reaches further. Those are some things that I have tried in the past. I did try.
Why didn't we do that the first time?
I wasn't directed to. I just told what I had done in the past as far as just local that didn't cost anything. So that's what that was my suggestion. So I apologize if there was a miscommunication error, but that's exactly what I did, was what I normally do to help the departments out.
Well, it sounds like Darren forwarded it out to numerous professional organizations that you have contact with.
Can we, I just want to make sure, are we violating open door? But I mean, like, talk, do we have to talk into mic so everybody can hear?
Olene asked me if we got $50 a meeting, saying that for her, there should be $600 since she doesn't take it, that there would be $600 that could come out of that fund because she doesn't get paid. She won't take the money to pay and fund whatever advertisement needs to be done.
I will get the prices. Who do I report that to? Mr. Wenning? Is that, but I'll be happy to find out. There's a platform for free. There's another platform that they do just for a limited time, for a limited number of applicants, and then you've got a year's subscription, and I think it goes on. But all I'm helping out with one of the circuit courts, we did the, I think it was like up to 500 applicants, and by golly, he got close to 400, but he denied all of them but 2. So, so there are, oh, I bet you do. So, so there are some venues, but again, there may be some upfront cost, and I cannot cross that threshold.
Could we have you get with President Winning with ideas of where you would like, you know, obviously being in HR, where you would like to advertise, what avenues you would like to do, shoot it to him, and
I'll
then...
fact gather those resources, and Darren, if you don't mind to share those with me, I'll include those on my list if that's okay with you. And then when we get the job description, which is already up and running, and the posting, we'll just change the dates, the schematics, and we'll hit send, so I can let you know. So say, just for knowledge here, say you get 5, 6 applicants. Are you going to interview all 5 or 6 that meet the criteria? Are you going to have a subcommittee that's going to go through those and filter them and narrow it down to 2 or 3? Because you get a little bit of concerning when you start doing background checks on everybody, and then you really didn't mean to have that one, but you just did it anyway. So I'm just throwing these things out at you. That's what I was, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I made a motion to start over, so I think we need to go from there, and then you can talk about maybe doing a committee or creating that committee and putting people on that committee.
Let's do a voice vote on that particular motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Re-advertise.
I will get that drafted and get that to you then tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ann.
And from here, how do we want to address any potential applicants? How do we want to interview? How do we want
Wait.
that's up to you guys. It's your
I think we do it how it was done when it was hired with Jacob, or with Darren. I think that we, for the process, we do the same as what's been done. Now, whether he changes, you know, he may change committee, I don't know, but I think that since we're all here, that's his right to, or his ability as a president. So I guess that would be up to you.
Do you have a motion that Mr. Wayne maintain the committee, seek applicants and interview applicants and everything? What's your motion? Any discussion, any second, or anything else?
Please, Sean, speak up just a wee bit. I didn't quite catch everything you said. I'm sorry. listening as hard as I can, and when it involves me, I like to make sure I understand exactly what I'm being asked to do here.
I don't know how the old timers did the jury trials in here because
Okay.
sound doesn't really travel all
Okay.
that well. That's true. That's true. Okay, so I think, as I understood Rachel's motion, the motion was to allow Mr. Winning to maintain committee and add members if he wishes to, or if people don't want to be involved with that, be his purview for the search for candidates for the position. And that's the motion as I think Rachel put it. Okay. And there's no second
And-
yet, but if there's any discussion.
Yeah, I do have a question. You're putting me back on the spot here again, just like we were 2 months ago. I was asked to come up with a committee, but I'm being told I'm supposed to do this in the public meeting, and here I am again tonight being asked to put together a committee in a public meeting. We don't meet for another month. Does that mean this whole process just sits idle for another month because we need to have a public meeting for a committee?
You can create the committee tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anyone who's not asked to be on the committee wants to know who's on the committee, please call me. I'll be glad to tell you. It's not a problem. It wasn't a big secret who the committee was. We just have not met, and nobody asked me to announce who was on the committee. So I'm just asking people to contact me if they have a question. Yes.
Jim, I'll say once again, qualification, 6 years ago, I think those two people right there, if I remember right, didn't you put it, okay, those were the two people that put in an application 6 years ago. We interviewed both of them. Me, what's your name?
Can I ask, did they have prior qualifications?
And Mr. Russ. At that time, Mr. Russ was the chairman of the board. He appointed us to work with him. We were very lucky at that time. Darren had worked with Rachel because she was on pregnancy leave, and she helped him get started. Right, Darren?
Well, Dale, I think Dale was on, there was actually two committees, because I was actually hired twice. So we were in the original round when they were looking for the interim zoning administrator, and it was us, and I think there was a few others. It wasn't just us two in that instance. And I was hired to work where Jody is, but also once Rachel went on leave, I was in charge. And then when Rachel came back for a short period, and then she fully resigned, then you opened it back up. I had to reapply for
Right.
for the
Yeah.
permanent position, and I don't think it was Ann at that time. I think it was someone else, but I think there was only two applicants. And so, yeah, I went through this process twice.
But we were very lucky to get the 3 applicants that we got. The way people are right now, they don't want to work for some reason. I don't know why. But we did get 3 applicants. To say they were qualified, status quo, they probably have to be trained some, I would say. I'd say they're all 3 probably smart enough. But I think, we're right back where we started from. I don't think you're going to get a real qualified person for $41,000 a year. They're going to have to like the job, want to do the job, and really have the job at heart. Because I think that's where Darren was. That's what made him so good at what he was doing. So it's, and as far as the committee, Jim, I don't think it's necessary to have a whole committee. Pick 3 or 4 and go with it. And, I don't think it's necessary to have a whole bunch. You ought to have questions that you can ask your candidates and decide, who's who and recommend whoever you're going to pick to the rest of the committee. I think that's all that's necessary.
I'll simply say I did not know that there was a committee. I was not informed of who the interview people who applied were until last night by email, a good month afterwards.
Would that really make a difference?
I would have liked to have been informed as a PC member because the law requires. I found out yesterday who the people were, and we come here tonight and find out who the people were that were selected. I did not know that prior. I did not even know to
These are
ask
the
you.
people who apply. Nobody was selected. Nobody has been selected.
Okay.
These people applied. You simply got the resumes of the people who applied. Nobody has been selected. We did not bring this forward to you tonight to vote on anyone. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I was advised that this is how it's been done in the past. So please, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Does every member want to be on the interview committee? Is that what we want to do here? Tell me.
I want to be communicated with.
Okay.
I want to be communicated with. As a board member, 4 of us didn't even know you had an interview, did not know who the applicants were until last night.
If we talk about,
And you selected someone, apparently you were going to recommend, and we did know nothing. Nothing. Communication. You ask a question, communicate with all 9 of us.
after, when no one showed up of the 4 that were mentioned, sorry, as I hit my microphone, knowing that you missed an executive session, did any of you reach out to the president and ask him any of this
We
information?
expect to be communicated with. I missed because of health. Communicate. That's not unreasonable. Four of us knew nothing.
Was it the 4 that did not show up to the executive?
I don't know who showed up. I did not show up because of health reasons.
I was there, but. Marcia, were you at the executive session?
Did you know?
Larry, were you at the executive session? Tom, were you at the
I,
executive session?
I don't think it was a situation where we was trying to hide anything. Probably I agree, communication. We probably just didn't realize it. And I would probably want to know too. But the thing about it, this board's got to be together. We got serious situations that come before us that we need to be together on what we're doing. And so my thoughts are, if that's what it needs to be, let's go back to square one, like I said before, and let's move forward. And everybody's here.
I would suggest that whoever
you
wants
know.
to be on the committee, I mean, I don't think there needs to be 9 people on a committee. I don't. And I am taking myself as commissioner out of the running to even be on a committee. I don't want to be on the committee. But, correct. But whoever wants to be on the committee, you know, I think everybody should be asked if they want to be on the committee and go from there. Maybe some people don't. I don't know. Tom, maybe you don't want to know or want to be on the committee. But, so I am taking myself out.
I would like to be on because I've been involved in over 50 professional interviews of teachers in my life, and probably have more experience interviewing than anyone else here.
So,
I've probably interviewed about the same or more.
all right, so here's my suggestion. We proceed forward. If you wish to be on the committee, you notify the president within, 5 business days? And then from there, if you don't notify him, then we'll just proceed forward with the interviews and things of that nature. If you want to be on the committee, you got to contact him within 5 business days. I don't want to put anybody in a spot here tonight about whether you want to do it or not, but that's the only way I can come up with it, so.
So I will make that a motion.
Okay.
That if you want to be on the committee, notify Jim Winning within 5 days that you're interested in being on the committee. If he doesn't hear from you, that means you didn't want to be on the committee.
Okay.
And then how does that work? Does he take them all, or as a president, does he choose? I don't know.
I think the motion is that he would take anyone that volunteers from the planning commission. And then if there's any other, because I know that BZA, people like that will have to deal with zoning administrator as well. So if there are any BZA members that may want to be involved with that, that may be possible
And
too.
you would have to keep unless you got to be careful about quorum from
Yes,
people on the
right.
planning commission. So
Right.
there can only be 4.
Right,
So you don't hit quorum.
right.
There can only be 4 members of the planning commission on the committee, so you don't hit a quorum, because if you hit a quorum, you have to, there's open door
Right.
rules that you have to follow.
So it's not of everybody who wants to, it's,
The first four,
First 4 that contact.
first 4.
Do I need to amend my motion to say the first 4?
I'll show that motion amended.
Okay.
The first 4 planning commission members contact Mr. Winning within 5 days. Okay, is that the motion? Is there a second?
Is there a second? Motion's been made to the first 4 people who let me know on this commission here, let me know that they wish to serve on the committee. The committee to look at applicants will be the first 4 chosen. That's the motion that was made. I don't believe it has a second yet. So, okay, I'm sorry, I did not hear Olene's second.
I didn't.
Okay.
Olene seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded, and the first 4 people. If you don't have my email or you don't have my number, I'm glad to share either one. Jody has them both. You can reach through her and she can reach me, whatever. I don't care. But anyway, that's the motion on the table. So
Okay.
we'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
That's it for new business for me.
Okay. I guess we'll ask for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
It's nice to see you.
You too.
Dale, it was nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Keeps bullying me to stand up.
Oh, good. Where you going?
Well, congratulations.
I'm so happy for you. Oh,
It's kind of a blind day.
well, Dale, I'm happy for you. Oh, good.
You're a month younger than I am.
When did you get married? When did you get married?
We got married 3 months ago.
Oh, my gosh. Well, congratulations. I am really good.
Baby,
That's good. You need that. You need that.
Toe the line, huh?
good Christian woman.
Good.
Oh, no, not that.
She retired from Guideland, or Delta Remy.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. You know what? I'm just tickled to death. I can't wait to go home and tell David. Take care.
You too. See you, Marcia.
Yeah, go down and see my nephew. I had to go. I'm gonna drop by and see him.
Where at?
Please, Texas.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me on the way up.
Yeah. Still like her daughter tomorrow night down.
Well, safe travels. Yeah. And congratulations about your marriage.